If you are a new Scrum Master or someone new to the Agile team and just curious about knowing what's happening in the daily Scrum, then this video is for you. So many years back when I was given the role of Scrum Master to play, I didn't have any experience even being in an Agile team. I was completely into a waterfall model. I did a certification. I got an opportunity as a Scrum Master. It was difficult to me to visualize what happens in the Agile team. So I went by books. And this video is a compilation of everything I learned about the Daily Scrum. So in this video, I'll be explaining on why do we need stand-up, what is the significance of it, who attends it, what do they discuss, some best practices and tips for you as well. So what is Daily Scrum and why do we have it? So Daily Scrum or Daily Stand-up both means the same. This meeting is basically to transparently discuss on the progress of the items that you are working and inspect and adapt wherever required. So let me be more clear. So the Scrum team has committed to a list of items to be worked in a sprint and they start working on it. So that is the sprint goal. So as a team, we want to understand how we are progressing towards the sprint goal. For that, we have this meeting. This is a very short meeting that should be run on daily basis to discuss on how are we progressing, is there any blockers or impediments, and how can we help each other. And that's why we have Daily Scrum, just a quick meet to discuss and see where are we towards the sprint goal. The meeting should be really short and to the point. So the Scrum Guide suggests the maximum time limit is 15 minutes for this meeting. Now let's see when and where to run this Daily Scrum. Nowadays, there are a lot of teams that runs completely remote. For that case, the discussion can happen online by Teams or whatever you use. But for the teams that meet in office, the best way to do is in-person meeting. And the main thing is it should happen in the same place at the same time. So for some of you, this might look silly, but it matters because it creates a pattern, set a rhythm for the team. Needless to check your calendar, they know by heart that this is the place and this is the time I have to show up for the daily stand-up. It's something like brushing your teeth in the morning, it becomes your habit. So this definitely creates a pattern and there are high possibilities that the developers won't skip the meeting. So reiterating, it should happen in the same place at the same time. And when we say the same time, the best time is when you start the day, whatever time your team starts the day. So it's ideal to start your day with this meeting. Next, who should be part of this meeting? This event is for developers. This is for developers and should be run by the developers. The Scrum Masters and the product owner can be part of it. There's a lot of reason why I personally feel that the Scrum Master should be part of the daily stand-up. But as per the Scrum Guide, it is not mandatory. The Scrum Master is not a mandatory for the daily Scrum. It should be run by the development team itself, a self-managing team. How does a Scrum board look? There are two types of board. A visual physical board that sits in your conference room or somewhere in a common place where your team meet for daily stand-up, or it can be a rally board or a Jira board, just an online tool board that you can share on the screen. Let's talk about this visual physical board. When you have your team working from your office, then this works best. You should have a dedicated board for your team in which you can update daily and see the progress visually. And if you're not able to get that dedicated space and board for your team, then it's better to go with the online boards. So this is how the visual board looks. When you start the sprint, you commit for certain items to be completed and all of it sits under to do. And while you progress, each developer's progress on different items of this and they move it to in progress and at some point it moves to the completed state. At a glance, we'll know, seeing this board, we will know that these are the items that we are working for the sprint. These are the one that's completed and these are the one that's in progress. It gives a very good status of what's happening in the sprint and how close are we to the sprint goal. The second one is screen sharing board. So there we should have some facilitator, ideally a Scrum Master, sharing the screen and showing all the stories and discussing the progress one by one. Let's see how do you discuss in which order. So there are basically two popular ways in which you can have your daily Scrum. It's item by item or person by person. In one of my team, I had challenge in running it person by person because the stories were really small and each of the developers had at least 4 to 5 stories. And when they discuss about what they are progressing, what they are completed, sometimes there is a chance of missing the tickets that's yet to be taken, right? So we decided to go by item. So we also know that there are some stories that's yet to be progressed. So either way is fine. Do your analysis and see what best fits for your team. Next, does the same strategy work for all the teams? Definitely no. I would like to suggest to tailor your style based on the agile maturity of the team. Let's consider there are 3 maturity levels: beginner, intermediate and pro. If your team is completely new to agile, they're transitioning to the agile from waterfall, they're not aware of the agile practices, then you can call them as a beginner team. And if the team is very much aware of all the practices, kind of self-manages, then you can call them as a pro team, and anything in between is intermediate team. So the needs of each of this team is different, and the way the daily scrum should be run should be different in my point of view. So let's see one by one. Beginner, intermediate and pro. So let's see one by one. The first what is the role of Scrum Master? For beginners team, the role of Scrum Master is to facilitate the daily Scrum. Because this is a completely new team that's not aware of how the daily Scrum runs. So the Scrum Master should be able to help them to understand how it runs. And so the Scrum Master is mandatory for the beginner team, I would say, and the Scrum Master should be able to help the team to facilitate. And when the team moves to the intermediate level, the Scrum Master can just encourage the developers to facilitate on a round-robin fashion, and the Scrum Master can just observe. So here, the Scrum Master to observe whether it is happening in the right way and progressing towards the sprint goal. And the last one, for the pro team, Scrum Master can skip. Remember, the Scrum Master is not a mandatory person for to be present in the daily Scrum meeting. As per the Scrum guide, the Scrum Master can be optional. But this is something that I would suggest for the beginners team, the Scrum Master is mandatory. And for intermediate team, the Scrum Master can appear when and where required and help the team and kind of observe what's happening. And for the pro team, the Scrum Master can completely skip. Right. Next, how to start the meeting. How to start. This is one of the challenge for the new team, right? So they don't know how to start the meeting, what to talk about and everything. So for the beginner team, I would suggest the Scrum Master to start with an update. Scrum Master to start. That kind of sets the tone for the meeting, sets the energy for the meeting. The Scrum Master can talk about anything that happened the previous day in which the Scrum Master was able to have solving any impediments or any update that can be given to the team. So to set the tone, it's better the Scrum Master starts the meeting. And for the intermediate team, it can go by any order. And also for pro team, any order. Next, let's talk about the style of the discussion. So as I said, there are two styles in which we can discuss, either item by item or person by person. So for beginner team, it's good to go with item by item. And for inter and pro, item by item or person by person, anything work. So both, anything can work. Why I suggest item by item for beginner team is it gives more clarity to the discussion. When you discuss item by item, they'll not be confused on what to discuss and what to skip. So better to go with item by item. And the next is how to discuss. So this also we discussed, like there are two types. Either they can go by the 3 standard questions. So for beginner team, I would suggest 3 questions. What are those? What what did I work yesterday, what am I going to work today, and do I have any impediments to move towards a sprint goal. So those are the 3 questions that was earlier defined in the Scrum Guide, but recently that's removed because it's more focused on the individual work, and collaboration is less when they just focus on these 3 questions. But for beginner team, I would still suggest to go with this. That gives a structure to their thoughts and what they have to talk about. So they can start with this question, and slowly when they move to intermediate and pro, it should be a free flow discussion. So the developers decides on how they want to discuss, in what style they want to discuss. Ideally, the free flow will have more collaboration because they are going to talk about impediments and any support that they need with the team members instead of just answering the 3 questions. Alright, so for beginners team, you can start with the 3 questions. And the last one, what is goal of Scrum Master for each of this type? Right, so that differs. For the beginner team, the goal of Scrum Master is, the first main goal is to educate Scrum practice. Educate Scrum practice. Right? And the next is facilitate agile ceremonies. Facilitate. So before you push them to be a self-managing team, it's first you have to show on how this runs, how the Scrum events is going to help you. For beginner team, it's good idea that Scrum Master facilitates all the Scrum events. And the last one is impediments removal. Right? So these are the 3 main goals for a beginner team. What about intermediate team? So the educating Scrum practice may not be required. They can focus on deepening team collaboration. So deepening team collaboration, right? And they can also focus on impediment removal and process improvement. So process improvement and impediment removal. Right? And for the pro team, shift your focus from task management to the strategic thinking. Like the team is already in high standards, but ensure that the team maintains that high standards of agile practice. So ensure high standards, right? And facilitate continuous improvement discussion, right? Continuous improvement might even the mature team might lose focus on the continuous improvement while they are really busy or working on the existing task. So you have to keep an eye on whether they're focusing on continuous improvement. So facilitate continuous improvement, right? And the last one is, for this team where it kind of self-manages, the Scrum Master can start focusing on organizational level impediment removal or supporting as a Scrum Master. So org level initiative can be focused. So this is something that I came up with based on my experience on how you should be part of, or how you should support a team based upon the agile maturity of the team. Hope this helps. Now let's talk about the challenges that the Scrum Master can face while running the daily stand-ups. I have come up with a list of 6 challenges and some suggestions on how can you tackle it. The first common challenge that can be faced in your team is people won't show up for the stand-up meeting, or at least some of them might not show up. So the best solution for this would be just talk to the employee and see why they are not showing up for the stand-up. Are they not seeing the value in the daily stand-up meeting? Or they feel that it's just eating their time? Or what is the reason behind that they are not showing up for the team? Based on that, you have to coach and push them to start coming to the daily stand-up meeting. Once they start coming, you should also ensure that you show the value of attending that. They should feel that value in the meeting to continue part of the meeting in the future as well. So the only way to tackle this is to discuss, coach, and monitor. The next challenge is people show up but they don't talk. So they don't know how to start, how to talk. So in that case, I would suggest you to emphasize the structure, the same structure that we discussed. Just start asking them, probe them with 3 questions and ask them to respond. And slowly they will understand on how the meeting is structured, and slowly they will start speaking. They know what is expected from them. The third one is kind of like vague update. Like people saying that, yesterday I worked on a ticket or I worked on a story and I completed it, or it's in progress, which I'll be continuing today. There's nothing that you can understand. What is that they are working, what they completed, or what they are going to continue. So to tackle this kind of questions, you have to ask the following questions. Questions like, what did you work? Can you give more specifics to what you worked on? It's not the Scrum Master, your role is not just to facilitate the meeting. As a whole, we have to discuss on the progress of what's happening in the sprint. So it's very crucial to understand what each of them are working on. If there is vague update, then you have to ask questions to understand what's really is happening. Do they need any help from any of the developers or even from the Scrum Masters? So those kind of questions, if you ask them, they will slowly get into a habit of giving more details in the stand-up discussion. And the next one is when this meeting turns up to a status meeting. So what I mean by that is there's a lot of culture that all of the developers will report the status either to Scrum Master or to the product owner. So what happens in that case is, like, once I give if I'm a developer, I give my update and I don't even listen to what's happening with the rest of the team. So they'll be disconnected, working on silos and just giving an update to the Scrum Master. That is not the ideal way the team should work. They have to collaborate with each other, get to know what's happening in the team and see how they can support each other. So when this kind of issues happens, how you can foster that collaboration culture is by cross-questioning. Like when someone is giving an update and you see and you think that this is something similar to what another person worked on, you can straight away ask the other person, I think this is something that you worked on in your previous sprint. Is there any suggestion or process improvement or anything that can be reused that you want to suggest to this guy? So that will initiate the discussion and they will start talking to each other, and slowly you can just start listening to them and see how the collaboration is happening. And the next important issue is when people deep dive into the problem and start a solutioning session. So this call should be really script 15 minutes, right? As a Scrum Master, you slowly interrupt them saying that can it wait for a parking lot. So what I mean by that is after the daily Scrum, you can have like a 15 or 20 minutes buffer as a parking lot where you can discuss anything that you want to discuss in detail with a shorter team who is required for that discussion. I know it's really difficult to interrupt this discussion, but as a Scrum Master, you have to take care of the time box as well. Otherwise, that's going to be one of the concern of developers for not coming to the daily Scrum. So slowly interrupt, gently tell them that can this be part of the parking lot discussion, and then allow them some time after the Scrum meeting to discuss on this topic specifically with a smaller group who is required for that discussion. The last one is attending without preparation. So I've seen that people come directly to the office and directly jump into the Scrum meeting and they go blank on what they worked on yesterday and they kind of struggle to give that update. So you have to emphasize or coach the team to come up with some preparation on what they worked yesterday and did they complete it or not, did they move the status to completed, is there anything that others can help them, or is there any blockers, and those kind of questions. Remind them 10 or 15 minutes before the meeting if required based upon your agile team's maturity, and then you can probe those questions. You can ask them to come prepared with those answers. So these are some of the common challenges that I have faced, and this is how I tackled. Hope this helps, and let me know what else you are facing, and let's collaborate and see how best we can tackle that. And the last topic I would like to discuss is what as a Scrum Master you do in the meeting. What do you observe? Is that like the Scrum Master have to time box the meeting to 15 minutes? That's the only goal? No. The Scrum Master is the true leader, right? The Scrum Master is equally responsible for delivering the quality product every sprint. So the first thing for you as a Scrum Master is active listening. because not everyone in the Scrum team are listening to each other, right? The attention span is less. But as a Scrum Master, it's just 15 minutes of meeting, and you have to be very much active listener to hear what's happening. Not only the impediments, even the progress. If a person is continuously progressing very well, the progress is really good, fast, and quality thing, then you have to be you noticing that to appreciate him, right? So active listening is one of the key things. Next, foresee whether the discussions and the progress are moving towards the sprint goal. The team is climbing the ladder, but you as a Scrum Master should see whether they are climbing towards the right wall. So you should have a vision as a true leader on whether we are progressing right. So foresee the progress while they discuss in the daily Scrum. And third one is obvious. Hear impediments and try helping them to resolve impediments. It's not only the duty of Scrum Master to resolve all the impediments. They can get help from the developers, or they can reach out to the external team to easing out that blocker. So any which way, you have to understand, hear the impediments, blockers, and help them understanding and ensure that they are progressing. The last one is look for patterns. So this is a key again. So sometimes a Scrum Master feel that why should I be part of this call? But there are something that you can observe only if you attend on daily basis, right? For example, if someone is looking for support from a senior developer on how to progress their story, they're not clear on how to progress. Obviously, as a Scrum Master, you tag them along with some developer and ask to help them to work on the story. But if you see that as a pattern on daily basis, whatever is given to that person, the person is expecting some level of support from the senior developers. So you have to understand this from the other perspective. The senior developer might think that they have to handhold him 100% throughout the sprint. That's going to be difficult, right? So those situations can be grasped only if you attend the call on the daily basis. And as I said, even a good progress, someone is delivering a quality product every time, then there's no issue in the product that's delivered and it's delivered on time. That also you can know only if you're attending on daily basis. So to observe the pattern, that is something that the Scrum Master should keep an eye on. So it is a small event, but it has a bigger impact when it is done right. I think this covers a lot of things on how a daily stand-up should be run and a lot of tips that I gave. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. That motivates me to do a lot more videos. And comment on what you would like me to talk about. I love to hear from you all. Thank you.